Hello, everyone, and welcome to You Matter Talks. And today I am here all by myself. As it would happen, we had a bit of a thing, and no one could be on for you today. Funny enough, though, just so that you guys all know, in the section where all the events are loaded, I did notice that the events that are scheduled for yesterday are saying that they're today, and the events that we're saying today were scheduled for tomorrow. So I'm thinking our speakers probably are noticing these weird indiscrepancies, and we'll try and get that all figured out for you guys. So we'll rebook Daphne, and we have Zavora coming on at another time as well. And so we have a great lineup worked out for you guys. So in the meantime, I thought I would come on and just share a little one-to-one. So one of the things that has come up a lot this week for my clients, especially those that are either starting a sort of virtual long distance relationship right now, or maybe they just started it before the COVID. And so, they're kind of in that, perhaps awkward stage, or they've just been building a lot, but maybe it's been a little bit more conservative, and they really want to spice things up a bit more. So I have a wonderful thing that anyone can really do with a partner. It could be a brand new partner. It could be someone you've been with for 20, 30 years. I've had several of my male clients, actually, it's been my male clients that have been married for 30 plus years that have actually used this very successfully. And funny enough, it's mostly my female clients that have used it right off the bat in a relationship. Although I have some male clients that have too. And some that straddle both spheres, if you will. So this is just, it's a really amazing challenge. And I know the last gentleman that I talked to you about this, when I suggested that he do it with his girlfriend of, I guess, 3.5 months, he was a little concerned that it might be a lot for her. And so just know that you can sort of tweak this and change it in a way that really works for you. That is the beauty of this challenge. So you can make it as absolutely sexy as you want it, and you can make it a little less sexy if you want. So here it is. So I call it 30 days of turn on. 30 days of turn on. And what you do is you propose to your partner not that kind of proposal, but you may want to do this kind of proposal after you do the 30 days, depending on what comes up for both of you. So what you're going to do is you're going to propose to your partner that you're going to do this 30 days of turn on, and you want to present it in the way that it's meant to be presented, which is not like, oh my gosh, well, it could be. So, okay, here's the deal. You could be with someone for a long time and you're like, you know what, things are just like pretty blah. We both know it. We need to reignite things and, propose it that way. For clients that are in new relationships, I find that they're worried that the partner is going to think that already, even though things are brand new, that things are not good enough, and they feel like things are good enough. And so just keep that in mind. Like, be honest about whatever your feelings are. And if sex and intimacy, hello, Brian, is already great, then say that. Say, oh my gosh, I love where we're at. This was the client that was a few months in. He loves where they're at. They're having amazing intimacy. And really, there was just like all these things that were turn-ons for him. And he really wanted to communicate these things with her without kind of feeling like the bad boy, I guess, without feeling like he was a bit too much. And it sounded from what was said that she actually had quite a few fantasies too that weren't really being discussed, which is pretty typical. Most clients, I find, most people actually, don't actually discuss a lot of the fantasies that they have with their partners. They may discuss them further in their relationship. But most people don't really discuss them right off the bat. Kind of depends. I mean, there's some outliers there. I have obviously people in the kink community. They're discussing their fantasies and desires like right away. Some of the polyamory community, things like that. A little bit more communication that happens right off the bat sometimes, depending on the people involved. And so, it's definitely not a one way fits everyone. We all have our own groove. But essentially, a lot of people aren't discussing what their fantasies and desires really are. And so this is a really fun, sexy way of opening it up. So the deal is that you and your partner both agree that once a day for 30 days, you are going to share a turn on with the other person. So you can do it any way that you want. And I actually love creativity. I think creativity is so sexy. And when you receive like this turn on message in a way that's unexpected, it's exciting. It arouses the nervous system. It arouses the mind. This is a huge sexual organ. And so all you do is you would have one turn on. So it might be something super simple, like I get so turned on. Maybe when you wash the dishes at night, your partner sort of comes in behind you and wraps their arms around you. And that's like a huge turn on. So you would say, it really turns me on when you do such and such. And you could send this as a text first thing in the morning. You could, if you're together, put like a little note somewhere that they're going to find. There's just so many ways that you could present this turn on. It could be in person at dinner or over the phone. It could just literally be a call like, hi, so my turn on today is, and then bye. And so you would just do that, and you don't have to do it at the same time. In fact, it's really nice when everybody just does it in the flow of their day and gets to sort of plan that little surprise. And the rules are this. As the one person tells the person their turn on, the person that receives the turn on information just says, thank you. That's it. And this way, there's total safety to actually express and have your fantasies and turn-ons received that you may not think are okay with your partner, because some of your turn-ons may be things that you haven't done together. And some of them may be things you don't know, but would like to know about. So you might be like, it turns me on to think about us doing this, or it's a real big turn on when I imagine us exploring this, or when I think about telling you about this, or, it could go so many ways, right? And so the thing is you might be sharing something that you might have not shared with any partner before. I've had, clients with all sorts of different things that they really love. The one that's coming to mind right now, I had a client with someone for 7 years, and he had a foot fetish, and he was terrified to tell her. And finally he did, and it didn't go well, because she felt like it kind of had been withheld for many years. But and he came to me after this because he really wanted to have an open relationship where he could actually explore his wants. And so the thing is when you kind of do it in this way, it's not like something has really been held back. It's just like an exploration on both sides. And then if you're really smart, I personally, when I do this, I use my cell phone and I just start a little note, and I actually record all of my partner's turn-ons that I get in 30 days. And then what you can do at the end of it is you can actually have a little sort of virtual date or in-person date where you simply discuss the turn-ons that you really liked that the other person told you. So anything that was like, no, you just leave that right off the table. And so, I would go to my partner, oh, I loved when you shared this one, and I loved when you shared this one, and I would love to do this one with you, and wouldn't this be fun? And then the other person's like, ooh, look at that. Like, those are areas now that we have synergy and we can play in. And so there's no real, telling the person that their fantasies are okay. You're kind of skipping past all of that and just actually finding the points that really work for you. And the thing too is, even if, you share a fantasy, say with a partner, and they don't respond to it with excitement right off the bat, and they're just like, okay, thank you. Don't think that that's a no, because you're not actually asking for a yes or no at this point. It's just a sharing. And the interesting thing that I've seen over the years is that partner will take and absorb that information over the next days, weeks, months, sometimes years. And then a lot of the time they do come back to the partner and go, you remember that fantasy that you shared with me? I'd actually be really interested in doing it now. Because sometimes it can be a little scary going into the unknown, and we change and we evolve, and maybe we get a little bit more adventurous, and maybe we build more trust and safety in our relationship. Maybe something we wouldn't be willing to try right off the bat because we don't feel that safety in the relationship yet. We don't feel that safety sexually. We don't feel like maybe there's that emotional safety there. We don't feel like, maybe if we needed to say stop or we didn't like it would be heard well. And so, that actually brings me to the second thing that I want to talk to you about today. So the first one is 30 days of turn on. You and your partner each tell each other something that turns you on or would turn you on, or you imagine would turn you on for 30 days. The end of the 30 days, you can get together and share with each other which ones that you loved the most. And now you basically have a next couple months worth of intimate adventures planned. Now, the second piece is, how do you create the safety around these things? If you have some news that you need to give to your significant other, a request that you need to make, something that is maybe not typical for you guys, and you want to do it and you're not too sure how the conversation is going to go, I'm just going to give you a few tips on how to create safety in your communication. Because when we have safety, emotional safety in our communication, and we are heard and we are seen, and we know that our partner has taken in that information and they understand what we're saying, and we know the vice versa, and we know that it's like just okay to speak, it's okay to say and express, that creates a huge container for so much more juicy, fun sexual intimacy. It's huge, 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 huge. And I know a lot of female clients that don't often express it, but that safety just isn't there. And that's sometimes why they're not willing to explore. So, or they are exploring because they kind of feel like they have to, but they're not really enjoying it as much as they could. And so that's when you kind of land on, you're having this really hot and heavy relationship. It's really fabulous all at the beginning because everyone's kind of trying to please each other. And then it's like, okay, I've kind of done enough of this, doing for somebody else. It's not really working for me. And so I'm going to kind of stop doing it. And all of a sudden you find, one or both of the partners kind of fades off. Usually it's one, and the other one still really wants to keep going. And it's kind of like, what's going on? And I know it happens. It does typically, I see more with my female clients, but they will come in and, they're just like, I'm just not enjoying it. They're just not enjoying it. They're not enjoying it because they don't know how to touch their own body sometimes, because they don't know what feels good for them, because they've kind of been trying to impress partners over the years and just do what they want. So they've never really discovered what their body loves, what they really want. And so it could be that. It could be that they've been doing things that they don't like for so long that they've kind of numbed themselves out, and they need to bring sensation back to parts of their body, bring vibrancy, bring that sensuality and that energy back to their body. So many things. So communication. So a really nice, easy way to practice safe communication between two partners is to simply imagine that when you're listening, that you're a reporter and you're just taking it all in, and so that you can write it down and understand it and be able to speak it back to someone. And the person speaking is going to remember to use words like, I feel, when this happens, staying in present moment. So trying to bring things up when they happen, not deciding that, your partner is trying to express something. So all of a sudden you're going to bring up the last 1 month of things that you didn't like. You really want to keep your communication as present as possible. And if you need to discuss things in the past and stuff, then, there's ways to open the clearing for that as well. But let's just stick to this for now. And so we want to say present moment. We want to say, I feel, this is how, it is for me, and things like that, making I statements and keeping it about oneself rather than being, when you do this, it makes me feel. Okay. Instead, you can say, when this happens, I feel like this. And it's such a subtle shift, but it can make such an incredible difference on how the person hears it and perceives it as being your feelings versus blame or criticism and that type of thing. Now, is it going to work for everyone? No. Sometimes our partners have some deep insecurities or shames about the things that we're talking about. And you could word it pretty much whatever way, and it's probably going to trigger them. Okay. So in the case that you're listening and you get triggered, and when you get triggered, this is the thing, you're going into fight, flight, freeze, fawn. You're not going to be able to communicate effectively. You're not going to be able to hear like that reporter and, regurgitate it onto a piece of paper or say it back to your partner. Your brain's going to start jamming up. So when that happens, you need to just be able to voice, thank you. I hear you. I'm feeling kind of triggered right now, or I'm feeling like I'm not processing this right now. Can I just have a few minutes? Or I'm just going to take a few minutes, even better. I'm just going to take a few minutes and just, go do something that's going to clear the mind a little bit, so that you can go back and actually fully hear what the person is saying, because you might even be interpreting already what they're saying in a way that's creating a trigger for you when maybe nothing needs to be there. So go clear your mind, have both people go take a walk, take some deep breaths, whatever it is, just getting back into the heart, getting back into a place where I just really want to hear the other person rather than deciding how I feel about it right away. Like, you really want to understand what somebody's saying first. So much of the time, a partner will say something to us. It reminds us of something that happened a long time ago, maybe even our childhood. And we immediately start moving into an emotional trigger zone, when if we're able to clear our minds a little bit, move back into our hearts, ground ourselves, and come back into the conversation from a place of just completely listening with compassion about the other person and not quite making it about us yet. There's real magic that can happen there, because you may hear your partner say things that you're like, oh, wow, like this really doesn't have actually much to do with me. This is like them, having something that is important to them or something that's really bothering them, and it may be something that is just in complete innocence on both sides. We all get triggered by things that, might remind of us of something that our mom did when we were young, or our dad, or an ex, or something. And, really the problem is less between the two people and more about our past trauma. So, so doing that is great. So then you come back, and as it is possible, the person that's listening then says, this is what I heard you say. And you just repeat back to the person what you heard them say. Now, if the person talking goes on for like 20 minutes and at 5 minutes you've gapped out, you do need to let them know at 5 minutes, okay, just hold on. Let me just repeat back to you what you've said to me to make sure I understand, and then let them continue. So you can ask for conversations in smaller chunks if you need it. Some people are used to listening for long amounts of time and metabolizing more information, but most people can really only metabolize maybe a couple minutes before they need to repeat back. and determine if they've understood the person. So when we repeat back, not only does it allow us to really cement that understanding, but the other person now gets to feel heard. And if they don't feel like you quite understood and there would have been a miscommunication, there's now an opportunity to clear it. So the person that was talking could then say, I don't actually feel like you understood this part. This is what I was meaning. And you would just kind of go back and forth like that until there's a full understanding between the two of you. And then from there, you can actually do something about whatever has come up. So you can actually move into a solution. So the person that was talking said, you know, when you do this, it makes me feel this way. And the second piece can be, it would really support me if. So this is what I think would support me. And this is where you need to be a bit flexible, because the thing is you may think that it will really support you if your partner does something different, but then they might go do something different and it might cause a whole new set of problems. So be open to the fact that right now that's what you think would support you. And, you know, you're just going to trial it even for a little bit. Like, let's just do this for a couple days or a couple weeks or a month and see how it goes. And then the person that is on the listening end can either say yes or no, or here's like a different solution. So the person can say, you know, that's talking, it would support me if. And the person that's receiving this listening might be like, you know, I don't know if that's possible for me. You know, it may be that you need them to shift a small habit, and maybe they don't have a problem shifting that habit, but they don't no idea if they're going to be successful at it. So they might go, you know what, I don't know how good I'm going to be at this, but like, I'll give it a go. And how about if I, you know, we try it for the next 2 weeks. And if you could you just remind me if you see me doing it, or, you know, whatever it is like this. And then you're just going to agree to just kind of be accountable for that solution, both of you, in a really beautiful, neutral kind of way, because you know that you're both working on it. And if that solution's not working, sit back down at the table again and like come up with something that you guys do think would work. Okay. And so hopefully that gives you a little bit of guidance about improving your communication. Now, the last piece that I want to give you is how to clear up. It's a little bit off the topic, but it's actually quite on the topic, because so much of our communication stuff actually comes from our modeling. It comes from what we grew up with. What was acceptable in our house, what was not acceptable in our house, what was acceptable at school, what was not acceptable at school, what were we punished for, what were we ignored for, what were we rewarded for, when were we just basically put up with. I mean, it kind of depends what household you grew up in. If you grew up in a really violent household, what you're doing for rewards at this point may have just been to survive back then, right? So we all have these interesting belief systems and coping mechanisms that we've created over our childhood and then developed into our teens and 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, depends on how old you are. And so much of it I have found in my work comes from multi-generational problems, multi-generational cycles, multi-generational patterns, multi-generational traumas. And sometimes it's not even completely obvious that it's multi-generation, because it may have actually skipped our parents and may have just been in our grandparents, our great-grandparents. And it's funny because sometimes when you do the research, you will find that. Like, you will find that there is a pattern there that maybe you are now tapped into, but maybe somehow your parents kind of skipped it, but it was still further up. So there's this wonderful modality that I've been involved in for a bit now. And I found it really potent in terms of clearing multi-generational trauma through the subconscious, through our energy, through our entire family system and its family constellations. And when people come in to do the work, or we do it online together, because I can't really see anyone in here anymore, but we can do it online. The things that come up are just so beautiful. And there's such grace and the healing that happens, and there's such huge openings that occur in the family, not only for the person that's in here receiving the constellation, but the generations above and below them. So I just want to share this absolutely most simple, basic family constellation healing technique that you could use in your own home right now. And I encourage you to actually use it often. Even if you feel like there's not, problems or trauma in your family, there is going to be things there that maybe you might not consider trauma, but maybe affecting your relationships. It may be affecting your relationships regarding money, maybe affecting your relationships regarding sex, and maybe affecting your relationships regarding happiness, regarding actually seeking a partner that meets and matches you. You could actually be seeking people that are actually not a good match for you subconsciously. You could be finding yourself in patterns where you're continuously seeking out partners that are not fully available. Perhaps they're cheating, or perhaps they have a very close tie to either their mother or father that's almost a bit marriage-like, where there's no room for a partner. There's a lot of different, maybe maybe you're always the other woman or man. That happens a lot too. People will, really want to be in a relationship where they're not with somebody that's already committed, and they'll keep finding that their partners somehow have a primary partner on the side that they've not really told them about. So there's a lots of different things that can come up. I'm trying to think of other things. Yeah, there's so much. I mean, relationships are complex. So if you have like a pattern that you've noticed in your relationships, this is a really good, simple clearing technique to start with right away. So you just want to find a nice, calm space for yourself where you're not going to get interrupted. And you just want to close your eyes, and you want to imagine, and this is what this works on the biological family. So there are things to further clear with other family structures, but we're talking about the multi-generational trauma that comes to our biological family for this. And if you're adopted, I get it. I am partially adopted myself. My father actually adopted me. It's a bit of a complicated scenario to tell you how you just get adopted by one parent, but it is possible. So I grew up with my biological mother and an adoptive father, and then like a stepfather and all that. So I get different family structures, and that the stuff that can often come up with our adoptive parents and with our step parents is actually still sometimes forming from our multi-generational trauma in our biological family. So we really want to clear that up first, even if you don't know your biological parents. And actually, especially if you don't know your biological parents, this is a really good subconsciously healing exercise to do. It's quite powerful. It blows my mind how often clients will just do this really simple exercise, and next thing you know, like things really start shifting in their life. So you want to close your eyes, and you just want to imagine bringing in your biological mother and father. And if you don't know exactly what they look like or whatever, that's okay. You just like kind of call them into your imagination and just imagine that they're there. And maybe you'll be able to see them. Maybe you'll just be like, okay, I've called them in. That's it. We all have different senses that we sense with. So however it shows up for you, that's totally okay. So you just want to close your eyes. You want to call them in, and you want to imagine that your parents are standing behind you. Okay. Your dad on one side, your biological dad on one side, your biological mother on the other side, and you are sitting in front of them. Okay. It's important that they're standing and you're sitting. So you want to imagine that they're standing and you are sitting, and you're sitting with your back to their legs. Okay. So you're sitting on the ground with your back to their legs, shoulders are leaning back into your biological parents. So they're in a sense holding you, and they're right above you. So you'd be able to, in your imagination, if you looked up, you would be able to see them or simply sense them behind you. And as you do this, you just want to imagine your biological father saying to you, I am your father and you are my child. And then you would have your biological mother say, I am your mother and you are my child. And then you would have, imagine you saying, I am your child, you are my father, I am your child, you are my mother. Okay, that is the absolute most basic form of this practice that you can do. If you want to step it up a little bit, which I highly recommend, you can do the first steps. So, I am your father, you're my child. That's what your biological father says to you. And then he would say, I gave you all that I could. And that was all I could give you. And then your biological mother says, I'm your mother, you're my child. I gave you everything that I could. And that was all I could give you. Okay, notice my wording is just a little slightly different between, you can just make it really natural for you. Okay, and there's not the exact words that you need to say, it's the energy and the intention of the words. And then as the child, you would imagine yourself saying, you are my father and I am your child. I thank you for my life and I give you back everything that is not mine. And you just imagine yourself giving back to your father whatever is not yours, which is usually a little bit of stuff. And by the way, we're saying thank you for our life no matter what. It's a subconscious thing that they discovered that we kind of need to say, even if our parents did something rather difficult, like tried to abort us, things like this happens. I get it. They may have not wanted us. They may have, mistreated their bodies when we were in them. There may have been a lot of stuff, but at the most subconscious level, we don't need to appreciate anything that our parents did to us that potentially harmed us, but we just need to thank them for our life period. Just thank them for the fact that we were given a life because of the conception, the biological conception. And so you've done that with the father, and then you go over to the mother, and it's the same thing. It's, you're my mother, I'm your child. Thank you for my life, and I give you back anything that is not mine. And what this does is it allows you to subconsciously start actually healing any kind of intergenerational trauma. And it also allows you to start letting go of anything in the family system that you've picked up. And so you can just, do that once in your mind's eye, in your imagination, and just be with it for a moment. And then just let it go. And the next day, if you want to do it again, go ahead and do it again. And you just keep doing this sort of as it comes to you until it feels good. And, if you want a real wild and crazy, biological parents, you could kind of say it to them. I know I did at one point. I was talking to my mom and I said, I really want to thank you for my life. And she didn't really think much of it. She didn't really know where it came from. And but there was definitely like a healing there to just allow her. I know from my growing up, I grew up kind of taking a lot of responsibility in my household. And so it really allowed me to step back into the child position, let her be the mother, and just really thank her for just bringing me into this world. And that's it, for giving me a life. And just knowing that was enough. That was enough. And so, yes, I hope that this has been enjoyable for you. I hope that you've picked up a few tips for your relationships. I can see that I am close to being at time here. So I'm going to thank you and send you lots of love. And I hope you guys are doing really, really, really well. And I look forward to doing more of these lives. If there's anybody that you really want to have on the live that you would like to see, give me a a direct message, introduce me to the person, you know, Leanne, this is this person. And I'd absolutely love to have them on. I would love to bring as many perspectives and relationship structures, um, lifestyles, belief systems, all of that to you so that you can really pick and choose what is your truth and what is not. Because I believe that's kind of the magic in life is we all get to choose what really resonates for us and we can let the rest go. And so I know that I have found that one of the biggest changing things in my life was the fact that I had access to different belief systems, to different people, to different perspectives. And sometimes those perspectives didn't land when I got them. But years later, it was like a little light bulb, and it was like, oh my gosh, I remember having that conversation. That's what they were talking about. And all of a sudden, there I was in my life experiencing what that person was talking about. And now I had tools. So I am here just to simply serve you guys. I love you so much. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.